Hi, everybody. This is Ray Petrie from the Augusta Free Press, joined this evening by Mark Fleming, a former professional wrestler for Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, as well as New Japan, the UWFI, and a protege to Luthez, someone who has seen it all in this business, has done it all. And I'm really excited to talk to him today about his career and his experiences in the wrestling game. How are you, Mr. Fleming?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Like I said, so Augusta Free Press, we're in the Augusta County, the Shenandoah Valley. This was part of the Mid-Atlantic Territory. So that's where you started your career. So I just before we get into the amateur aspect of this, what were your earliest impressions of professional wrestling?
Oh gosh, I was probably around 10 or 11. Just saw it on TV one time and was fascinated by it the first time I saw it. And I told my brothers, I said, that's what I want to do. Of course, 10 or 11, you're going to laugh at you, right?
Right.
I wasn't that big of a kid either. So anyway, it was just a dream. And I took it serious and I really worked for it hard. It didn't come easy for me. But I came up the hard way. Never had nothing handed to me, but I'm proud of that because a lot of guys, you know, it was pretty easy for them because they had family in it or knew somebody. And I just started in the amateur ranks and worked and wrestled in high school and went from there. I went to a tryout camp in Charlotte, North Carolina, at the Coliseum there the year that I graduated high school. I had been talking to Ricky Steamboat at the matches here in Norfolk, Virginia at the Scope, and we'd always talk about my amateur career. He would always ask me about the tournaments I won and whatever. And I told him, of my ambition, what I wanted to do. So we would always talk about amateur, and he said, "Look, this is a hard business. It's a lot different than amateur." So he said they're going to have a tryout camp. He told me the date and everything. And so I called the office and you got to kind of be invited. They ask you your background and they ask you, did you have a wrestling background or some kind of athletic background? They invited me there December of 81. And it was 27 guys there. And I was second to the smallest. Ole and Gene Anderson were in charge of the tryouts. And it was an all-day affair. I mean, they put us through everything. Hindu squats, you got to do carry your guy on the shoulders and go up and down the Coliseum steps. You had to do 100 push-ups without stopping, and it was a rough workout. Then we had to get in the ring and do a round robin with everybody last. And like I said, I didn't weigh but 200 pounds at the time, and I ended up pinning everybody that I wrestled. We were going against college football players from South Carolina and some big guys, some power lifters and all, but not all of them were wrestling oriented as far as wrestling on that freestyle like I was. And we had a couple of guys that were good wrestlers, amateur wrestlers, but what really hurt them was they weren't in shape for what we had to go through. And Ole and Gene Anderson weren't easy on you. I mean, they demanded you to be in shape and be tough and tough to survive. And at the end of the day, well, a lot of them had already quit during the exercises and walked out. But at the end of the day, it was three of us left. And Ole Anderson picked me. He said the other two guys, they were bigger than I were. But one of them was a bodybuilder. He was an amateur wrestler, Winston-Salem, I believe. Another
Wow.
guy was from Columbia, South Carolina. But I don't know. I wrestled Ole and I switched him, got behind him, and it really pissed him off. But I think he liked it because Was I intimidated by him? Yes, very much so. I was scared
Cool.
to death of him because I saw the way he was handling these big football players. I mean, he was beating them, stretching them like they were nothing. And I go out there, and the first thing I did is I switched him, got behind him. Then, of course, he reversed it and got me on the ropes and started choking me with his forearms, slapping around, telling me, you think I'm tough and all that. He started bad mouthing me. I just fought back. So I think that impressed him.
Hmm.
Um, anyway, it went from there, but it wasn't an easy road at all. Nothing like the guys do today. It wasn't no school. It wasn't no none of that. Because right after the tryouts, I waited about 6 months before they called me, which I didn't think they were going to call me. But Gene Anderson called me and told me to get my butt down to Charlotte and start training. I didn't have a car at the time that would make that 330-mile drive, so I had to catch a Greyhound bus.
Wow.
I was 19 years old, and I went down there and stayed for 5 days. First training, I stayed about 5 days, and Gene Anderson, Jake Roberts, Mike Rotundo, Don Cardoto, Keith Larson. I worked out with all of them, and Gene Anderson too. And boy, that was rough. So then he would send me back home, and a couple of weeks or 2 or 3 weeks later, he'd send me back. So that's the way it went. And really, I was kind of not happy with that because it wasn't consistent enough for me. There's too many. Anyway, one day after a workout, Gene Houston came up to me and said, "Hey, kid," he says, "I'm going to put you on the road." I didn't think I was ready. I told him so, and he says, "Well, the only way you're going to learn is get your butt in there and do it. Travel with the guys and get in there and do it." And he said, "You'll learn on the road." And it was it was tough. It was
Yeah.
really tough because it was still a lot of the old timers wrestling then. And I'd never really been out of Virginia at that time, and here I was traveling around everywhere with these guys and getting my butt kicked every night. And you don't say nothing. You surely don't complain, and you keep your mouth shut and just listen and learn. And, that's how I came up
Yeah.
until I met Luthez. Until I met Luthez, then that was a different ball game. He actually trained me properly. He saw something in me. Actually, I was wrestling at the Norfolk Scope here in town, and he had happened to be there because I didn't know this at the time. He was living in Norfolk.
Right. Right.
I had no idea because I was traveling in and out. And he was at the Scope one night watching us wrestle, and he came to the locker room, and of course, Wahoo McDaniel introduced him to everybody because Wahoo was like in awe. Who says he was the best. And when he introduced himself to me, I was like, wow. He says, "Hey kid," he says, "You wrestled a little bit, haven't you? You noticed the way I handle myself on the mat, I guess."
Hmm.
And he invited me to work out with him sometime. Of course, I was working with Crockett at the time, full schedule.
How far in your career was that?
Uh, that was 87. I met him in 87.
Had he opened his gym yet in Virginia?
Do what?
Had he opened his gym yet in Virginia?
No.
No. So this is okay.
Um, now he wasn't even thinking that at this time. He just saw me wrestle and just he learned that I had lived there in town. I
Right.
was in town. This was my home. And he said, "Well, when you're ever in town, let's go to the gym together and roll around, or we can lift weights together, or whatever." He just liked the guys that took the business serious. He
Cool.
wasn't crazy about the gimmick guys. He liked guys that took wrestling serious, and I guess he saw that in me because that was me. I just took it very, very serious. And, yeah, I guess he can see that. So anyway, long story short, we just when I was in town one time, I gave him a call and said I would be here for a few days, and I met him down at the gym, and he told me he likes the way I move and carry myself in the ring, and he says anytime you need any help, just let me know. I'll be willing to help you. And I learned from other guys that Lou didn't like you or didn't see something in you, wouldn't pay no attention to you. You know, he was that type of guy. He wouldn't waste his time on. So a lot of guys used to tell me this. They're going, Fleming, you must see something in you because he's not that type of person. So him and I became pretty good friends just by doing that sporadically. And
Wow.
then he would start going to the matches with me.
Really?
Yeah, like if I just for example, I was wrestling in Darton Arena one time at the fairgrounds in Raleigh. He asked me, he said, "Can I ride with you?" So I go there, I had my match, and I was wrestling Sting.
Wow.
And he says, he was sitting up there watching it. He says, after the match, and he says, "You're putting that guy over." He says, "That guy don't know nothing." He says, and he could tell that I was helping him along,
Sure.
because I had a job at the time. But anyway, it went from there. And then finally, he just told me, he says, "You know what? I'm not trying to tell you what to do." He said, "But once Dusty became the booker, he says, you're not what they're looking for." Luke
So
told me this.
who was George Scott booking before Dusty?
No, it was Dory Funk Jr.
Wow.
Dory Funk Jr., um, Johnny Weaver, Ernie Ladd, and Wahoo did some. They were the four.
Wow. Okay.
I
So,
worked with George Scott later. I
right.
did.
Okay. Okay. Who was your favorite booker before Dusty, if you don't mind me? Did you have one? I mean,
Well, I like Dory Funk Jr.
did
He treated me okay for a green guy.
you?
Yeah, he booked me and booked me pretty fair for somebody that was green as grass. Um, and I liked Ernie Ladd. He booked me. Wally McDaniel really, he's another one that said that he likes my style and he would book me real well when he was booking. He wasn't booking very long, but
Okay.
Wahoo took care of me. But as soon as Dusty got in there, he brought all his boys from Florida
Right.
and kind of shunned all the guys that were existing in Crockett's stable already.
Hmm.
And they all just kind of spread out. Well, this might sound stupid and all, but I wanted to stay in the Mid Atlantic with Crockett because they were the biggest thing happening at the time.
Sure.
They were bigger than WWF.
Hmm.
This is when Hulk Hogan was just going in there and all. And anyway, I try to hang on. Dusty, he was just I don't know. He didn't like my style because Dusty Rhodes don't like wrestling anyway. He
Right.
always liked guys. And so I didn't fit in for what he was doing, and Lou recognized that because Lou didn't care what Dusty at all either.
Right.
He didn't respect him,
I was gonna
but
ask.
yeah, he said he was just a big fat slob that he's just a gimmick guy.
Right.
Um, so, I mean, if I'm talking too much, you let me know.
Oh no, I love this. You're answering questions I was gonna ask. I love this.
So, I worked for Dusty for a while, and it just got so pathetic that all my bookings were just TV.
Sure.
I told him one time, I said, "I'm not doing this." And, Lou told me, he says, you need to get away from those people because you're going to never go nowhere. He says, you have got too much talent and too much wrestling talent to be wasted on putting these guys over that don't know nothing about nothing. And so what he did is he booked me with Inoki's group, New Japan,
Hmm.
because in Japan, they wrestle. They'll try to hurt you.
Sure.
Ain't nothing like the United States, nothing. And so I went over there and stayed a month in New Japan. And this is when the UWF was getting started with Tanaka, Fujiwara, and all these guys.
The original group Maeda or the UWFI?
Maeda,
Okay.
Maeda, yeah. And so in the meantime, Maeda left and started his own thing.
Right.
And then Okada became the big man. But anyway, they had a guy named Anjo came over and scouted me. And him and a guy named Senji, I don't know his first name, Japanese wrestler. They came over and scouted me. Who's gym? Well, no, it was at a boxing gym. We were working out at a boxing gym. Uh,
You and Lou were?
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Well, Lou would bring guys in for me to work out with. I
Sure.
had trainers. Um, he would have different guys for me to wrestle. I
Right.
couldn't answer him because he was too old at the time.
Right. Yeah. 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 Sure. Sure. Yeah. Well, he retired in the mid '70s, right? I mean,
Well, yeah, but he went back to Japan in 1990 and wrestled Masachono,
oh,
his last.
right. Right. The exhibition. Yeah.
But anyway, they made me sign a contract right there that night and got me some good fight money. And I went over there and they put me up against Takada, who was the main guy at the time in the first match. And I guess they liked what they saw because they invited. See, that was the thing where you had to be invited.
Sure.
Every You had to prove yourself every match. You didn't sign a long term contract for like a month or a year or whatever, like Baba and New Japan would.
Right.
They would they would watch you fight, what they call fight, and then if they liked you, they would ask you back and just go from each match how you did, invite you back. And I went over there and they invited me back a lot of times. I don't know exactly how many went with them, but I went to Japan on 19 different tours.
Wow.
Um, but Luthez, was managing me, started managing me at that time. And he would book me and he did all my talking for me and handled my contract money and all that for me. And kind of just took me under his wing.
Yeah.
So it went from there. But
Okay, backtracking a little bit, and I know I don't want to go too far back, but how did you foster this relationship with Ricky Steamboat? Because when I go to wrestling shows, I don't just, I'm going to go talk to John Cena. How did you become,
back then, the guys would come out and watch other matches.
sure.
And I was so eager and just so determined to meet or talk to somebody, talk to one of them. I I would just talk to him from the sideline, like hanging over the balcony, talking to him.
Sure.
And every time he would come to town, I would talk to him, and it just he would recognize
Hmm.
it. I told him I wrestled amateur and all that. And he got interested. He could tell that I was, we talked about amateur wrestling,
Sure.
and he liked that. He knew I just wasn't a fan of the.
Pageantry.
Yeah, I
Sure.
was there as an athlete trying to get in. I knew how wrestling worked,
Right.
and he knew that. He realized, I guess he picked up it. And we would talk mainly about not amateur wrestling. He would ask me questions, and we would talk about different tournaments I went in and how much weight I would have to lose for different, So he was asking me legitimate questions about amateur wrestling.
That's
And then,
awesome.
yeah, and then I told him, I said, I want to try this.
Right.
And that's what he was telling me. He said, well, this is a different ballgame. I said, I realize that. I can see all this. I said, but this was my main dream. That's why I went and started learning wrestle amateur because I wanted to be able to get in there, take care of myself. I wanted to take wrestling serious and learn it from the bottom up.
Hmm.
When I trained guys, that's the way I taught them. Mat up. We had our wrestling school, me and Lou. He let me handle everything, and I did all the coaching. I would train the guys If you couldn't wrestle, then you can't come here.
Yeah.
Like in schools you go to today, they learn pro holds and all that.
Sure.
That's months and months, maybe a year or so down the road before I even showed you that. You had to know, you had to prove to me you knew how to wrestle, take care of yourself.
Sure.
And that's the way Lou was brought up by Ray Steele and George Tragus and all those guys. That's how they did guys music.
Sure.
And so anyway, yeah, Steamboat. He told me, he says, "Now look, man," he says, "this ain't no joke. This is gonna be probably the hardest thing you ever did because the Anderson brothers are in charge." He said, "They're the biggest assholes there are, and they and real, they are really like that. They're just mean as hell."
Sure.
Gene Anderson was worse than Ole as far as.
Really?
Oh yeah, Gene Anderson was a mean son of a bitch. And that guy could wrestle. He didn't look like much, but that guy could hurt you.
Yeah.
And Steamboat told me, he says, "I'm gonna tell you something, man. I was in good shape then. So I was running, I was doing indie squats, I was going to my high school and working out with the wrestling team after I had already graduated, helping them guys.
Hmm.
So I stayed in shape, and I played rugby and to keep in shape, and I had played football in high school and all that. But this, I was working towards this. I
Sure.
had this in the back of my mind, and I was lifting every day. And anyway, so he knew I was in shape. So he said, "Just be ready, man, because this is a tough thing." And he was right. It was tough, toughest work I'd ever been through in my life.
Have I guess eventually Ricky got ran off by Dusty. That's fair to say, right?
Yeah,
He decided he couldn't be the top.
fortunately, yeah. But then Vince McMahon, of course, everybody knew Ricky Steamboat. He was a great
Sure.
athlete. He just smashed him up.
Did
Yeah,
you ever get the chance to work with Steamboat?
nope.
Oh, wow.
I trained with him with weights and all, but never.
Really? Um, you talked about getting in the ring with Sting. That must have been early in Sting's career, I'd imagine, right? Yeah.
But ain't no, yeah, nice guy,
Yeah, sure.
great athlete, not a wrestler.
Not a wrestler. A wrestler, maybe, not a wrestler, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Um, are there any matches in Crockett that you are proud of? I mean, you worked with Brody, Dory Funk Jr. at Rock and Roll Express. I mean, you have a who's who of great wrestlers. Is there anything that comes out in your mind that you're proud of?
Um, Ivan Koloff.
Ivan Koloff.
Ivan Koloff was probably one of the toughest guys in the business to be.
Really?
Him and Ole and Gene Anderson, Walton McDaniel. I mean, I really can't say the toughest, but because that would underestimate all the other guys that I've wrestled because
Sure.
I can't say which one's the number one toughest or that. When I this was later, um, we were working for an independent group: Ivan Koloff, Nikita Koloff, Blackjack Mulligan, um, Fantastics, Hector Guerrero, a bunch of us guys. After Turner bought out the
Crockett.
Crockett,
Sure.
the guys dispersed and started working independents.
And that was the North American Wrestling Association, correct?
Now, this was well, at the time, we went to the Virginia Wrestling Association. It was
Okay.
Richmond.
Okay.
And I wrestled Ivan and did a deal where the wrestling for the Virginia title. Him and I had I wrestled him a lot with Crockett, a whole lot.
Sure.
Crockett. And I just respected him. He was a good guy, man. He was a heck of a worker. I mean, that guy was tough, man. But he was a nice guy on top of that.
Yeah. Okay.
He wasn't a butthole like a lot of them were, especially to the green guys. The guys that were just coming in, guys like me that only been in it 2 or 3 years. Your first 5 years, you're still green.
Sure.
But Ivan would try to help you. He wouldn't try to take advantage of you.
I
Like
understand.
a lot of them would.
So
But
you,
I would say my most memorable matches were with Ivan. I enjoyed everybody.
so in '87, you meet Luthez, and he starts going to matches with you. Is that right?
Well, not all the time.
Not all the time, right? Right, not all the time.
Yeah, we hadn't had a school and all yet. He was just, I was still working full time with Crockett.
Right.
And then when Dusty came in, my problem started as far as getting decent bookings because he was using his own boys, from Florida. And in the meantime, I had met Fez, and he invited we. I would go over there sporadically. It wasn't like because I was in and out of town all the time. I was still
Sure.
working. So when I would come in town, I'd go to his house and we'd sit and talk, blah blah blah. And one day he said, he says, these guys aren't doing me right. And that's when he started talking to me about Japan and talking to me about wrestling. And he said the guys aren't being trained right. And then he told me about the old days when he was training all this and all. And he says, I have a Japanese guy that's coming over here that's I'm going to train. He says, if you're interested in coming down and working out with me sometime or with the kids sometime, and when you're in town or whenever you had time, and that's how it started.
Hmm.
So eventually, I would go down there and work out with him and all. Eventually, I got tired of Dusty's crowd, and Lou told me, he says, "Man, I can help you better than they are." So I broke away with Dusty. I told him bye, and
Wow.
when it started training with Lou, he would train me, and then he would bring in guys like that Japanese guy. I worked out with him, and we had other guys locally, and we had a guy away from California came, guys, a couple of guys from Denver, Colorado, two brothers. So we had guys all the time, and it was just really, it was just to keep me in shape, and at the same time, we were teaching how to wrestle.
Hmm.
But some of them were amateur wrestlers. Don't get me wrong; they weren't fans. They were just amateur wrestlers. So they were good. They were good guys to work out with. But um, Daz just told me. He says, "Man, you got to get you in Japan." He said, "You're exactly what they're looking for." And that's how it started.
What
So,
did what did Thez think about All Japan at that time in Baba? I mean, did he like the product there or
well, Baba had gotten kind of Americanized.
right,
He
right.
worked for Baba for years,
Sure.
and he's worked for all of them through his years. But Baba started getting real gimmicky, and Lou was definitely against that.
Yeah,
And and Baba was kind of getting cartoonish, he thought. So he thought Inoki was better.
right.
Um, and then that's why he sent me there. But when I got back from New Japan, they had an article, a two-page magazine article, wrestling dog magazine, of me wrestling over there.
Hmm.
And it said, what did it say? Something about this guy's perfect for UWFI because of my style.
Sure.
And that's when they started getting the idea, this guy, we want to look at this guy. So they were scouting guys that could really wrestle. That's
Hmm.
what they wanted. They wanted to get away from it. So that's when they came and scouted me, and Anjo and Sinji came out and watched me work out. And Anjo rolled around with me, and he asked Lou, he says, "Can I have him now? When can I have him?" And Lou said, he's ready, whenever you're ready. So I signed the contract that night. And that next month, I was over there wrestling for UWF, and it just went from there.
So Well, I guess first, talk to me about Nobuhiko Takada because he's kind of lost in the conversation of great Japanese wrestlers, I feel like.
He was good. They were really building him up because him and Maeda, they were the two guys, and Maeda was a big asshole, big, and they kind of
Right. Sure.
they didn't like him. They finally bought him out, kicked him out or something.
Really?
Yeah, he was a jerk off. So anyway, Takada, he was a good athlete. He had everything going for him, um, and they really built him up. And he was a good champion. Um, the stipulation was Lufez he wanted to have a tournament for his old world title, the
Right.
original, and he he had he found at the Norfolk naval base here in Norfolk, it's a big naval base. The Norfolk Sports Club sponsored a wrestling tournament on the base, and Lou and this promoter from North Carolina got together and had this tournament for Lou's belt. Well, it was guys from all over came in, but the biggest name was probably Blackjack Mulligan. He wanted to use Blackjack Mulligan.
Okay.
And Lou liked him because he was a big guy. He was very athletic, a wrestler. But anyway, him and I ended up in the finals, and I beat Blackjack Mulligan for the international title. And I got a picture right here. I wish you could see what I'm looking at here.
Was this this wasn't a shoot, was it? This was worked.
Well, it was half and half.
Half and half. Okay.
It was solid. It wasn't huh?
What is that? So you get the finish and then okay, now you go in there and you guys can beat each other up. Is that
It was because Lou demanded that. It wasn't no
right?
shit.
I
I
see.
mean,
I
you see
understand.
what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see this or not. Can you
Yeah,
see this?
yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
It's a picture of that night of Luthez. Of course, he was the referee, the main guest referee.
Sure. Sure.
This is the promoter,
Right.
and then this is when I won it, and that's the original belt that Lou had.
Can you raise that up just a little bit? Now that's the NWA's World Heavyweight Championship, right?
Yes, one that
Okay.
Ray Steele, Bronco Nagurski, and all of that. Yeah.
Beautiful. That's
Luthez won this for Everett Marshall back in 1936, 37.
so this is before the NWA, right? This is Catch Can World Championship.
Yes, this was
Okay.
before.
Okay. Okay, all right. I understand. I'm following along with you now.
So Lou wanted to do this tournament. Well, so we did this tournament, and I got the title, and I went around, and he got me matches everywhere we could find to defend this thing.
Right, that beautiful title around your waist.
Half-ass sheets. And it drew money. And then when Japan came over to scout me, Lou was promoting me as the NWA champ. I mean, not the NWA World Champion. He had changed it when he lost it to Dick Hutton.
Hmm.
Says lost the world title to Dick Hutton in the 50s. He kept this original title. They
Hmm.
got a belt,
Right,
same money. But he changed it to the international. They changed it to the actually he retired. They retired it and got a new belt and gave this to Lou. He didn't just
right,
take it,
right, right.
and they changed it to the international title, not the
Hmm.
world title. So he took it to Japan, and Ricky Dozan and a lot of guys over there wrestled for it. But I went all around with Lou with it, and
And this is in 1990?
I won it in '90. I held it from 1990 to February of 1992. I
Okay.
had it 2 years, and Lou was managing me and booking me and everything. And he managed me for 7 years, all through the Japan and everything. So anyway, when the Japanese came over to scout me, Lou told him, he says, "Well, he's the international champion, so y'all got to book him that way." And they didn't want to. They didn't
Hmm.
want to recognize it because they wanted their own title. They
Right.
didn't have a title at the time. I told Lou, I says, "That's fine. I want to go over there and make some money because the money was good."
That's what it's all about, right?
Lou said, "That's fine. So let's, drop the title part and just go over there." So that's what we did. Well, 2 years later, come to find out that the Japanese wanted to use the title, international title, for their own. So we had a tournament over there, and Takata beat Gary Albright,
Okay.
and Van Vader came over there, beat Takata, and that's when Lou Thesz left UWFI because Vader came over because
Sure.
he didn't put gimmick guys in there.
Right.
He was afraid they started getting gimmicks, so he had left them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, where Vader wasn't exactly an amateur wrestler. How do you, so they had a point system. I understand it's kind of, I'm not going to say convoluted, but they had a different way of determining the matches, right?
Yeah. And it's funny because, Gary Albright was a big guy. He wrestled from Nebraska. He was a national champion out of Nebraska. And we all knew the point system for freestyle and Greco and all, but we didn't know the point system for their shoot fighting style. So we had to learn how to wrestle all over again because they say you're allowed to kick. Well,
Sure.
I said, hell, what do you mean kick? We don't kick in wrestling. He said, yeah, we do over here. And they use an open hand slap. You weren't allowed to use your fist. You had to use an open hand slap, which we
Classic
tried.
wrestling, right?
That's for the UWFI. Yeah. So we had to learn how to wrestle all over again. So me and Gary would go to the dojo every day and work out. And some of the other guys, we would have to learn their rules.
Was it a lot of karate guys?
No, karate. We don't consider karate a sport.
Well, why were they kicking people then?
It was just a style that they had made up,
Sure.
uh, and it was catching on. It was making money. People wanted to see it. We had to wear shin guards and shin pads, and cover our wrestling shoes, to kick and all. And then
Sure.
you, like you say, you couldn't use a fist. You had to use an open hand slap, and it was crazy, and it was confusing us. There was no pinfalls. I've always learned how to wrestle as a pin guy. Well, there was no pinfall. So I was going down in and pinning. I pinned Takata 20 times a night I wrestled. They didn't count.
You know the
And
rules.
we were shooting. But
Wow.
anyway,
What,
so
so
we,
how do you determine if it's shoot style? How are you working the finish? I mean, how do you determine who's the top guy and who's not?
well, the promoters did that. I mean, here I am, American guy going over there against the top baby face in Japan, the
Right.
Japanese. But it's funny how the UWF fans were. They were, first of all, they knew wrestling. They knew bullshit from straight up stuff,
Sure.
and they if you showed guts and fight and a lot of heart, they cheered for you. It wasn't like your avid wrestling fan. You
Sure.
see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because there was no hype or there was no angles or anything.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
So you
So
get over by just being a good wrestler.
right, right.
That's
They had boxers over there, so they would do mixed matches. They had kickboxers. They had a guy that was a kickboxer for the Air Force. He was the Air Force coach kickboxer, uh, and he came over there and he fought, and he would fight a Japanese kickboxer. So they had mixed matches too. Um, but getting back to me and Lou training, we trained the youngest grand champion sumo wrestler in history was Koji Katao. He came over to Norfolk and trained with me for 3 months. We worked out for 3 months, 7 days a week. and he weighed 365 when we got him. No, he weighed 385 when we got him.
Wow.
And Lou wanted him to lose weight. We got him down to 365, which is only 20 pounds, but that's a lot of weight for a daggone sumo to lose.
Sure.
And he came over to, he wanted to learn how to wrestle on the mat. He wanted to do catch wrestling.
Sure.
Lou didn't call it catch wrestling. He called it mat wrestling, wrestling on the mat. And so I would teach him that. And of course, Lou would just stand from the sidelines, you know, bark out stuff to us. But I trained with that. I trained with Koji 3 months, 7 days a week. That was rough, man. Trying to get him off his feet was tough because he had a lot of balance.
Yeah.
Being a sumo guy, he had legs, huge legs. But once you got him down on the mat, he was like a fish out of water. You know, he didn't know what to do. But that helped me tremendously. And the guy, he would go to the gym with us. You know, we would work out in the morning with weights for about 2 hours. And then we would take a break. And then we would go to the dojo and the ring and the mats, wrestle there for about 4 hours. And that was our day. And we just lived it. And of course, Lou started paying me because I started training guys.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, you can call me his head coach, but I mean, I was the only guy training guys that learn how to wrestle. But I mean, we taught guys how to wrestle. We didn't teach guys how to work.
Right.
So,
You leave the UWFI in 92?
I left in 92. Yes. No, I went there in 92.
Went there in 92. Okay, you leave in 93.
I went, I left it later part of 93 or the early part of 94, something like that.
Okay.
And then I went to, I took a break. And then when I started back up, went to a group called what's the name of that group? United Nations Wrestling over in Japan. It was a small group. They were trying to start out. They had some of the guys that had left UWFI for some reason, and they were starting their own group. And I went over there and wrestled for them. Gosh, I don't know how many times until 2002, I guess. That was the last time I went over. It was 2002.
Wow.
But I wrestled for them a lot too, and there were a lot of young guys in that. I mean, guys that were just hungry guys and trying to learn, but they were shooters, you know. They weren't the gimmick guys. I mean, it was stiff over there, man. They would try to kick your knees out and rip your shoulders out. They were something.
Well, at that point, MMA was pretty big in Japan, right? I mean, there's Pancrase and One.
Oh,
Really?
oh, yeah, they had Pancrase because
Right.
a good friend of mine I used to wrestle was Ken Shamrock. He was wrestling for Pancrase with what do you call it?
Suzuki?
Yes, and Fujiwara.
Fujiwara. Okay. All right.
And I wrestled that son of a gun about 4 times over there, Fujiwara.
Fujiwara.
He's a wrestling machine.
Yeah.
He was probably the best wrestler over there at the time.
They named the armbar after him.
He was better than anybody. And I wrestled Antonio Inoki, and he was a lot better than Inoki.
I got a question about that later. But with Fujiwara, you in New Japan, you wrestled him, right?
Yes. And he would come up to me after the matches and come shake my hand and bow and say, "Thank you for the match." And he also complimented me on my style and my wrestling style. And you know, once a wrestler knows a wrestler,
Right.
they know a difference between the work and the wrestling. And he gave me a lot of tips, just showing me stuff in the locker room. Would just talk to you. He was always willing to demonstrate holds on you. but he was good. He was the best of it. And I wrestled Mr. Sight, Masa Sight, and also there. And he was in the Olympics.
Hmm.
He was a tough bastard. God knows I wrestled him too. And I also wrestled this guy that um, it was on the Olympic Japanese team. Um, his last name was Hase. He became a big star with Noki. Can't remember his first name, but I
Wait,
wrestled.
he was in a tag team with the Great Muta, right?
I
Like,
don't know. I didn't know Muda. Muda was after me.
yeah, Hase is he's a pretty yeah, sure, sure.
He was on the. He had just come off the Japanese Olympic wrestling team.
Hiroshi Hase, right?
Yes, he
Yes.
was
Okay.
no joke.
Yeah.
I wrestled him a lot. And then I wrestled Inoki, and I mean, he was a star, but I thought the other two were better.
He was older at that point, right? I mean, he was had to be close to 50, right?
I don't even. Yeah, I mean, he was over then when
He
he was working. I'll tell you another guy I wrestled. So actually, he knocked my hip out of socket. It was uh, Ricky Chono. No,
Ricky Choshu?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, big guy,
Yeah.
big thick.
He
He
made
was a good.
he invented the sharpshooter, right?
I don't know. He was a big time wrestler. He could wrestle, but hold on for a second. But yeah, these guys wrestled. Japanese could wrestle, and that's what they depended on. They didn't depend on gimmicks.
Sure.
They were they were the real thing. I mean, they might have done the gimmick stuff later, but they could take care of themselves. A lot of American guys. I remember when I first got booked in Japan with Inoki, I was still working a little bit with Crockett, right before I quit Crockett. Um, Rich Steiner came up to me. He says, "Damn," he said, "Where are you going to Japan with the Inoki's group?" I said, "Yeah." He had gone with Baba at the time. He said, "Dang," he says, "You got to watch it over there, man. Them guys try to hurt you and kick your knees and all out." Yeah, so a lot of American guys were scared to go over there.
Yeah.
Definitely did not want to go to the shoot fight group, UWFI.
Sure.
Vader, I'm telling you, Vader was like a little kid over there to them guys, man. They kicked his ass. He was a big, strong guy.
Sure.
He was really intimidated by those guys. And I tell you, a guy went over there that did well was Bob Backlund. Of course, Bob Backlund can wrestle.
Sure. Amateur background, sure.
He's a tough dude, Bob Backlund. And I lost respect for him when he started doing stupid gimmick crap. But that's Vince
Right.
McMahon. Vince McMahon ruined wrestling. You know that, right?
Yeah, I
He
agree.
ruined, he ruined the camaraderie we had. He really did. And I had a Pat Patterson. It was a guy named Pat Patterson, and he contacted Lou when I was international champion. He says, "Why don't we bring your kid in?" And well, Lou asked me. He said, "You want to go to WWF?" I said, "Nope." There was no part of it. I said, "That's all Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage crap." I said, "I don't want to. I don't want to be involved in that." I said, "They make everybody that comes from the NWA. They make them a clown. They made Dory Funk a clown. They made Dusty. Well, Dusty's a clown anyway. But everybody that went there, they made him a clown." I said, "Really, Lou?" I says, "I don't even want to go." I said, "That didn't interest me." I said, "I would rather stick in Japan and do my thing over there because they respected me as what I was. And I wasn't a butt kisser like a lot of guys were. And a lot of guys used to tell me, Fleming, you got to start laughing at Dusty's jokes and all this shit." I said, "You know what? If I can't get it on my ability, I ain't kissing nobody's ass to get nowhere." Maybe that hurt me in the States. I don't know. I'm sure it did. I do know it did hurt me, but I don't operate that. I wasn't raised that way, and I don't operate. I feel
Sure.
like if you can't get it on your own merits, I don't need it. And like Lou used to tell you, I told Lou that. He said, you know what? You can lay your head down at night knowing that you earned it and you were a wrestler. And, hopefully the guys now that know me knows that I was a wrestler. I wasn't I mean, I did a, I don't know if you know this or not, but I did a stunt one time for about 2 years as the Phantom.
The
And
Phantom.
yeah, what I was doing, I was at the tail end of working with Crockett still. Fat Dusty was still the booker.
Sure.
And I told Lou, I said, they just use me for TV and squash guys, blah, blah, blah. He said, look, and these independent guys were calling me up, wanting to use me. Ha, you paid me pretty good. And he said, I said, but I don't know. I was so daggone stubborn. I didn't want to leave Crockett because it was so big on, and I don't know. Anyway, Lou said, look, wear a mask. He says, keep working for Crockett, put a mask on, work these independent shows, get your money. I worked over 2 years and that fat ass Dusty didn't even know it. I was working under a hood independent.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So I hated the idea of doing that because I figured they ain't gonna give me. Lou said, look, some of the best wrestlers in the world wore masks. He
Sure.
said, so don't, that's not he said, in professional wrestling, wearing a mask is not disrespected gimmick like Dusty Rhodes getting out there dancing around like a fool.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You tell I don't respect that asshole, but anyway, um, I did that for a while and I enjoyed it.
Yeah. You like wrestling with the mask on?
Yeah, I did. I enjoyed it. I didn't think I was at first, and Lou kept telling me just put the daggone mask on and go out there. I says, well, what do I call my? I gotta have a name or something. These people don't know that. He said, wear all black, cover your so they won't recognize your physique. He
Sure.
said, mask on, call yourself the Phantom. So he gave me the name, the Phantom.
The Phantom.
So yeah, and I had matches with Ivan, Nikita, Blackjack Mulligan, Jimmy Valiant, uh, the Fantastics, Hector Guerrero. I
Wow.
had matches with all these guys under that mask, And I was getting paid for Crockett and doing it.
Did they know it was you under the
But
mask?
back then, the major leagues like Crockett were very against independence. They called
Sure.
them outlaw groups. They did not. They would fire you if they knew it. If you were working for an outlaw group, that's what they called an outlaw group.
Outlaw groups.
Yeah. He said they would fire you. It was cold, no questions asked, and because you couldn't work for another company for work. I had enough of Crockett, and I knew I would. Lou had bigger things for me, so I just told him to ram it and went with Lou.
What did the
But
boys think? I mean, you're traveling some, like you said, not all the time, but oftentimes you have Lou Fez with you if he's, you're in the Tidewater area. What did the boys think? You have the most decorated champion of all.
you walk in the locker room, and their mouth would drop open. They couldn't believe it. They're like, "Damn, how'd you get Lou Fez?" I was like, "I don't know." He introduced himself to me, saw he liked what he saw, and took me under his wing. And they were like, shit. And that's when a lot of them told me, like, Wahoo Daniel was one of them. See, he thought the world of Lou.
Sure.
Damn, kid. He said, Lou's not, don't usually do that to somebody. Because Lou was a very, he could be hard to get along with sometimes.
Yeah.
He was, um, he was very serious about wrestling. And he wanted people he liked people that took it serious. And his wife told me one time, because I got to know his wife real well, because I would go to their house. He'd invite me over their house, eat. So I was over all the time. And his wife told me one time, she says, Lou said that you remind him of himself when he was breaking. He was hungry. He took it serious. He wanted to learn the right way. He wanted it to fit wrestling. And I talk about that in my book that we try to bring wrestling back the way it was. Every time we wrestled an independent tournaments, or if we ran a match, which wasn't often, we did a couple, but we'd always represent wrestling. And just like Lou says, the marquee says wrestling. And that's what we were trying to do.
Sure.
And he hated all these people. He didn't like a lot of guys that he didn't respect them really. I mean, um, but he liked the guys that could really wrestle. Like he liked Tundo, he liked the Steiner brothers, he liked Bob Backlund. He liked the guys that could really wrestle. Other guys, and he liked Wahoo. Wahoo's out over that. But the Lex Lugers and the Dusty Rhodes and we thought they were jokes.
What do you think about Ric Flair?
Ric Flair came to our workout one day.
Really?
Listen, NBC Sports did a show on us one day. George Michael Sports Machine. I don't know if you ever heard of it. Washington, D.C. It was on NBC Sports. Came to us and wanted me to wrestle. They had a guy named Lou Charlotte that would go around and he would go to the major league to he batted up against the fastest pitcher in the major leagues. He would play basketball with a basketball star in NBA. He played golf with the top guy. Well, he came to us and Lou told him, he says, I got a guy that you need to wrestle. And the guy wrestled me and I ripped his shoulder out of the socket. And it happened during the tapings. And Ric Flair was there. He was invited by NBC Sports to be there. And of course, him and Lou were standing there at the outside of the ring wrestling this guy. All I did was grab him and pull his shoulder down, and fireman was carrying above my shoulder. And I heard it. I heard his shoulder just rip. And that guy, he was like in tears. And I said, oh. So Lou jumped in the ring. Lou's like, oh, shit, man, you hurt the guy. He says, told you not to hurt him. I said, well, damn, I didn't even mean to hurt him. We thought he had ruined our show, you know.
Oh, yeah, sure.
They kept the daggone film running, and they used that on the NBC Sports show.
That's awesome.
But I got a lot of praise from the guys then because I was wrestling the scope that night.
Mm-hmm.
During the day, and that night I was booking right here in town, and Kevin Sullivan and who I don't remember who else. Kevin Sullivan came up to me and said, damn, Fleming, he said, I heard what you did. He said, that was great for the business.
Like David Schultz slapping that reporter in the tunnel.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Yes, the question, what do you expect? You know, man, come on.
Right.
But I didn't even hurt the guy, but I did.
Oh, sure. That's funny though. You got away with it. David didn't.
I went back and told him, he said, Fleming stretched the shit out of that guy. He said he made that guy a believer. He stretched the shit out of him. Lou told me, he says, go in there and show him what you know, but don't hurt him. Now, but damn, I didn't end up hurting him. I felt bad, but
did Lou
they kept footage.
Carnivals? I mean, you know, the stores back in the day where they would let the locals get. Did he ever do the carnivals?
Who?
Lou?
No.
No.
No. He became world champion at 20 years old. Was he 20 or 21? He became world. He beat Everett Marshall in St. Louis, young.
Right.
You know, he's supposed to wrestle Orville Brown, but Orville Brown got in the car accident. So Luther, they put in. No, Orville Brown was supposed to wrestle Everett Marshall for the title. And the winner of that, Lou was going to wrestle, but he got in an accident anyway. Lou ended up wrestling Everett Marshall and beat him. They put the title on Lou, and he had it 6 times.
Yeah. Combined days higher than anyone. No one's even close. I mean, Flair's not close.
You know, they bought him out of retirement to take it off Buddy Rogers. He beat Buddy Rogers at Maple Leaf Gardens.
In the 60s, right?
63, was it?
63.
And, took it away from him because Sam Muchnick wanted it back. Buddy Rogers wouldn't give it back. He wouldn't say he had to get Lou out of retirement to go and stretch him a little bit and tell him, say, either I'm going to hurt you or either let's do this right. But he did it right and got it back.
That's I didn't know he had retired before that happened. So that's why the WWF left the NWA, right? Because they like Buddy, they like Buddy Rogers. The NWA like Lou. That's why they separated. What did Fez think about Vern Gagne? I mean, were they friends?
Oh,
Were
he
they?
liked Vern Gagne. Vern
Yeah,
Gagne was a wrestler.
right, right.
He just told me one time, he said, Vern Gagne is a overstuffed heavyweight. He should have stayed lower weights,
Yeah,
but it's not where the money was. People
right,
weren't paying attention. Back in that time in the 50s and 60s, it used to be years ago, people would see the middleweights and junior heavyweights and all that.
right.
This was the thing then, bigger guys. And, he liked Vern. They were good buddies.
Really?
And he introduced me to Vern at the Wrestling Hall of Fame. And this is how Lou introduced me. He says, Vern, I want you to meet this kid. He says, his name is Mark Fleming. This guy can really go. And that meant the world to me. That was $1 million to me, payoff.
That's
Because he is telling Vern Gagne, who's a hell of a wrestler too, that pointing to me saying this kid can go, meaning he can wrestle. And that's a big honor for a wrestler. It might not mean shit to a worker that these guys.
sure.
But I didn't have the same mindset as a lot of these guys. So, that meant a lot to me. And I'll never forget that. That's how he introduced me to him at the Wrestling Hall of Fame. And every time I saw Vern, he showed me the most respect you wouldn't believe. And it's not that I earned it for him watching me, it's just what Lou told me. Lou's word was the truth because everybody knew who Lou was. If he ain't gonna give you compliments if he didn't, that's just what he was. Everybody knew that.
Do you have any experiences with Danny Hodge?
Yeah, I was Danny Hodge was invited over with us at the UWFI. They were trying to bring back wrestling. So they brought Danny Hodge as a spokesman. They brought Lou Thesz. Of course, Lou Thesz was with me too. And they brought Billy Robinson
Wow,
and Nick Botwinkle.
that's incredible.
This is after Carl Gott. Carl Gott's left them when now he was with the UWF, but he left when Maida left.
Really?
He went with Fujiwara to do the group that Ken Shamrock was in. Then he got mad because he didn't like the rules of the shoot fighting and what we were all doing because it was kicking involved, which I agree with him 100%.
Sure.
But just like Lou says, if it's drawing money, who cares?
Right.
Who cares if he's drawing money? It's making money. So Carl Gotch got pissed off and he left. Yeah, Danny Hodge and I made a lot of trips with Danny Hodge and Billy Robinson and Lou Thesz. Them three together were a hoot. Me and Gary Albright used to laugh. We traveled with them every chance we got on the bus with them in Japan.
Wow.
I worked out with one time we were in the dojo working out, and Billy Robinson got in there. He says, "All right, come on, I want to wrestle." Well, I jumped on it because I just wanted to say I wrestled and got stretched by Billy Robinson. I was what, 29, 30 years old at the time. And I just wanted to wrestle Billy Robinson because I heard so much how good he was.
Sure.
And, nobody else would get in there. They were scared of him. Tom Burton and Mark Silver and Gary didn't even wrestle him. But I said, I'll roll around with you. So I got in there and rolled around with him. And I knew it was a chance of a lifetime.
Yeah.
He showed me some stuff and all of that. But I didn't have enough time with him, really. Yeah, he was good. Billy Robinson was good.
I saw The Wrestler when I was a kid, the version from the 70s with Billy Robinson and Vern Gagne. And I mean, just when obviously he was a lot younger then, but it's wild how modern what he was doing looked then. I mean, just how fluid he was on the mat.
Oh, he was good.
Yeah.
He had so many different styles. He had the European style. He had the the freestyle, yeah, the Greco. He just had it all, and he was good. Billy Robinson was good.
It's hard to
And,
believe he was never the world's champion. He was never NWA or the AWA champion, right?
was he AWA champion? I don't think so.
I don't think he was. No,
No,
it's
I don't think Burger. No, Billy Robinson. I don't know. I don't really know the story behind why.
yeah,
I know he was world champions in other leagues, but not in the three major leagues.
right.
I don't even think he ever worked for WWF. To tell you the truth, I don't know.
I don't think he did. He was close with Vern, and he went to Japan a lot, I guess.
And a lot, and he went to Europe a lot. That's where he was from, and
Sure.
yeah, him and Vern were good buddies. So
Yeah. Well, it makes sense. Vern liked wrestlers, right?
ooh, buddies too. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, my last question, because I feel like you're sort of the barometer of if a guy's tough or not. Did you ever share the ring with Steve Williams, Doctor Death?
Yeah. He's another guy that could wrestle.
Yeah.
He kicked my ass. I wrestled him the first time it wasn't a TV match. I wrestled him 100 times on TV. That's a different ball game. You know, you got to kind of play
Sure.
along with it and make him look pretty motivating. But the house shows, are a little different. So I wrestled him at Baltimore Arena one night, in Baltimore, Maryland, and I got a picture. I don't know what it's at right now, but I got a picture of him picking me up, strong as a damn ox. I weighed 265 at the time. He,
Wow.
he picked me up, pressed me, and then set him on top of his head, set me on top of his head, walked around the ring, and then just finally just slammed me. But and then he picked me up and suplexed me backwards.
Wow.
But he was good.
Yeah.
He was a good football player and a good wrestler. Yeah, he was something. But he only beat Gary Albright in college by 1 point for the national championship.
I didn't know they wrestled in college together.
No, they wrestled against each other. Yeah,
Against,
he
yeah, against each other. Yes, yes.
wrestled for Oklahoma and Gary wrestled for Nebraska.
Nebraska, right.
He only beat Gary by 1 point. So
But he played college football in the fall and then wrestled in the winter, right? That's insane.
he was something. He was a monster.
That's insane.
And that's another guy that could wrestle. Yeah.
No. Yeah, I watched your 20-minute match with Ken Shamrock, Vince Torelli. You can look it up on YouTube if you're listening to this. A wonderful match. But I could tell, watching that match along with some others on the Peacock, the Mid Atlantic section there, that you could really go on the mat. I mean, you were a tough guy.
Ken Shamrock was a tough guy. He was like a fitness fanatic.
Right.
He was always in shape, and he was another one that was hungry. Him and I became good friends. We even did some tag team through the independent groups, and we even did some tag team for George Scott too. George Scott was running the NAWA,
Right.
and everybody couldn't believe why they wouldn't hook us more together to wrestle each other because all the boys. I still hear from people right now to talk about that match. Even the boys thought it was great. But I mean, I remember Jerry Briscoe and Dory Funk telling me they saw it. They were like, "Wow!" They really liked it. But nobody could figure out why George Scott didn't book us more together, wrestling each other. He put us together as a tag team. I hate tag team. I
Yeah.
hate it. And they did that a lot in Japan too, because Japanese fans love tag team wrestling, and I hate it. But you got to do what you got to do. A lot of guys were wondering why they didn't really book me and Ken Shamrock in matches against each other, except that one time. But it's just the way it went.
Um, Well, I think that about covers everything I want to ask you. Now, I guess for the fans, you have a great book that I read part of. I didn't get the chance to read all of it, but helped me sort of inform my questions and some of the things I wanted to know. Um, and it's called "It's Wrestling, Not Wrestling." You co-authored this with Scott Teal.
Well,
Um,
I wrote it, and
you
then
wrote it.
I wrote it. I had I don't know, several chapters written, and I didn't know who was going. I didn't think anybody publish it because I wasn't no big superstar like Ric Flair or nothing. But I knew Scott Teal from the past because he has done write-ups on me before in his publications. So Lou Thesz's wife told me, she said, call Scott Teal, see if he'll do it. So I called him and I told him what I had. He says, well, he says, I don't know. He says, I told him, I said, well, I've got about 3 chapters written. He said, send them to me. Let me read them. So I was writing it by hand. I didn't even know nothing about what do you call it on the computer? How you do it on the computer?
Typing it.
Huh?
You
Yeah,
had
no, it's a program on the computer. What is it called? Anyway, I wasn't even doing it. I was doing it by hand on paper. So I sent him the copies. And he says, my gosh, he said, keep on writing. He said, just relive whatever you can think of. Right. So I did that. And then, of course, my wife showed me how to put it on the computer and all that. And I would send him chapters after I did it. And he just said he thought it was interesting. He said, let's give it a try. So he published it. And it's out for a second printing now. So that's pretty good because they're not going to keep printing books if it's not selling.
That's right. And you can find this on Crowbar Press and Amazon. Is that right?
It's not on Amazon. He doesn't sell any of his products on Amazon. Wait a minute. Yes, he does. He don't sell it at the bookstore. He sells it on Amazon, but the only one on Amazon is the ebook.
The ebook. Okay.
Yeah, they sell the ebook on Amazon, but the actual book where you can see all the pictures, because the ebook you don't see all the pictures. You can get it through me, directly through me, which a lot of people like because I autograph it, or you can get it through Crowbar Press.
And if they want to buy it from you, how do they go about doing that?
Um, well, I don't have a website or anything. I mean, I'll go see. I do Facebook.
Facebook,
Um,
maybe an email?
they email me. Yeah, they
All
can
right.
email me, message me through Facebook. That's how most of the fans talk to me through Facebook.
Through Facebook. All right. Well, we
Yeah,
can link both of those in the description and in the article that'll correspond with this video.
I
Um,
can DVDs or my book. Some
DVD.
people just call me and say they want an autograph picture for their collection, and I can sell them one of those. You know,
Amazing. So photographs of Lou Thesz's and yours. Is that right?
well, it's I got some shots from Japan that I sell. Me, throwing a guy, and then I've got pose shots of me with the international belt. Um, Also, you might want to mention I held the Virginia title 3 different times. I beat Ivan Koloff for it twice, and then I beat Tully Blanchard for it in 2006. That was my last year in wrestling. Me and Tully did a thing where we were wrestling back and forth with the Virginia title, and that was the original title that started back in 80, 85, I think. But I have it right here.
The
Yeah,
title?
yeah, I've got the original belt right here, but now they got this belt was held by let me see it.
Oh, wow. That's
This
awesome.
belt this belt was held by Ivan Koloff. He's had it a couple of times. Um, I used to wrestle Nikita a lot. Nikita would wrestle me for it. Tully Blanchard's held it. White Jack Mulligan. Um, oh gosh, I don't know. Johnny Ringo had it. Uh, I don't know. A lot of guys had it before I got involved.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, now they got a different thing going. But that sponsor's not even working no more. But
See.
yeah, and the international title I had that was Lou. That's in the Wrestling Hall of Fame, Waterloo, Iowa. The Dan Gabriel Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame was the International Wrestling Hall of Fame. Uh,
Sure. That's awesome.
yeah. So
Well,
anyway, that's the way it is.
that's the way it is. Thank you, Mr. Fleming. I appreciate you sitting down and talking with me. I know our fans are going to love this. Like I said, we have a lot of fans who are Mid-Atlantic fans, and who love old school wrestling. I mean, I think a lot of people are disenchanted with how it's the way it's gone.
Yeah, we used to wrestle at the Expo Center in Fishersville.
Expo Center in Fishersville. Wow.
We used to wrestle in Waynesboro, Harrisonburg,
Harrisonburg.
uh, all up and down 81. And yeah, uh, we wrestled in Winchester. I don't know, all the towns in between,
That's awesome.
Ira and all them places.
That's incredible. Um, yeah, people are going to love this. So thank you so much. Um, and we'll make sure that all those links are down there. It is a really great book. I highly recommend it. I mean, no offense, but I assume that Scott Teal helped you write it. It's really well written.
Well, actually, he believe it or not, he didn't. Um, I wrote the book, and he would try to change some things
Hmm.
to make it sound. But I says, no, that ain't the way it happened. This is the way it happened, and if it doesn't sound good, I don't care. This is the way it happened.
Yeah,
So actually, I wrote the book. He maybe fixed the grammar of some of it, you know what I'm saying, like that, and
sure.
spell check and all that. But actually, that came from me. It really did. And
If you're a great storyteller, you're a great storyteller.
took me almost 2 years to do it because I was running my own gym at the time. I had Fleming's gym in downtown Portsmouth that I was running. I had that for 16 years. And while I was running the gym there, I would write my book on the computer. But yeah, Scott Teal didn't have to do it much. He did a grammar check and all that stuff, situated the pictures, but I submitted the pictures to him and everything.
It's
But
incredible.
yeah,
Wow. All right. Well, this has been Ray once again from the Augusta Free Press. Thank you, Mr. Fleming, and I hope I speak to you soon again. I'd love to do this again.
yeah. Anytime you want to talk about wrestling, I'm game.
Awesome. All right.